What is it with people from Chicago that they're so happy to have been born there?
Chicago, Windy City.
So many people who can't wait to tell me they're from Chicago.
You wouldn't understand.
The Bears Nation podcast, powered by On Tap Sports Network.
I've been here 9 months. Things have gone very quickly. We've accomplished a lot, but I'm extremely impatient.
It is a beautiful day in Chicago.
I'm competitive. I want to win, but I also want to do it with integrity and style and grace and class and humility.
We'll call Chicago and notify them of the situation.
This is a destination. People want to come to Chicago.
Hello, Chicago!
And as I sit here today, unequivocally, I believe that we have the right set of individuals, and my expectations going into this season are extremely high, that we need to win the NFC North.
See you in the Super Bowl.
It's the Bears Nation podcast with Kevin Lapka and Jake Hassan.
Both men of Chicago.
It's Bears Nation, baby.
We're going to take the North and never give it back.
Let's go.
Welcome in. This is Bears Nation podcast. It is when? Nope, it's Thursday, March 7th. And we are here to a pseudo-emergency episode. I don't know if you call it a true emergency episode. Stuff has happened, and we're going to talk about it. Kevin Lapka could tell me he, quote, has a lot to say, end quote. So we're going to give him the runway as my mic is apparently echoing. So we're going to try and fix that right quick. I'm not sure. Let's try this. I don't know. I'm just going to stick in stuff and see if it works. Is that better? Hi, Kevin. What's up?
It's still echoing when it might be on my end. I don't know. It's chaos. Everything's chaos. This is what we do.
All right. Filibuster while I get wired headphones on.
All right. Here I go. I'm going to filibuster. It's Bears Nation podcast, March 7th, the day that the Bears extend Jaylon Johnson. Jake already said that, but we had to reiterate. So Bears signed Jaylon Johnson to extension. 4 years, $76 million. We're going to touch on that. We haven't had an episode since the Combine and everything that went on with Caleb Williams' medicals and his, interviews and press conferences and what he said. We're going to break that down because we know that there's been a lot of conversation about that. Apparently, the market for Justin Fields has entirely diminished to the point where I am following Mike Tannenbaum on Twitter, and about 5 minutes ago, before we entered the show, he says he is unsure Justin Fields will be a starter next year. So we have a ton to discuss as Jake plugs in his wired headphones. We are going to do it here for the next 30 or so minutes on Bears Nation podcast, everything from the quarterbacks to Jaylon Johnson to much, much more. We are thrilled to be back and talk. Well, I'm thrilled. Jake's probably not, to be honest. He would probably rather be doing like a million other things, like setting up our kickball team that starts in a month and 9 days. But
that
Jake,
you registered for.
We will get there. Do you want to start? Yes. Don't worry about it. It will happen. Where do you want to start here? Do you want to start with Jaylon Johnson? I mean, I know there's not much to say about it. Honestly, there's no strong opinion. It's a great deal for the Bears, $19 million annual value. He is the highest paid cornerback in the NFL from a guaranteed percentage of contract standpoint. So he gets $60 million guaranteed over 3 years, the highest percentage of guaranteed money to a cornerback in NFL history. So although the number isn't large, the $76 million isn't large, this is a deal that works really, really well for both sides, works really well for the Bears because they don't have a ton of money going against the cap with only that $76 million figure and that $19 million annual average value, which is only seventh among all quarterbacks, but it's that guaranteed money that locks in Jaylon Johnson, that financial security, and gives him the opportunity to sign an even bigger contract after this 4-year contract is done when he'll be, 28, 29. So Jake, reaction when that came across your phone? Wasn't really expecting that today, but Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter blew it up. Jaylon Johnson's a Bear for the next 4 years, and what do you make of it?
I was kind of expected, wasn't it? It's better, by the way. Fix the issue.
It's still a little echoey, but
all right, then it's your fault. I'm gonna choose just to believe. You know what? I'm gonna choose because then I'm just gonna open the stream. I'm gonna do it that way.
Yeah. I mean that just seems like the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it that way. And as I wait for the stream to catch up, this is real great radio.
No. Here, you go ahead. Give me your reaction to Jaylon Johnson, and I'll hear if it's still echoing.
All right. You know what we're doing?
You know what? This guy can't do anything right. He can't plug a microphone in right. He can't make a decision.
I will leave this stream right now. All right, I'm going to leave the stream.
He's going to leave
filibuster once again.
I have to filibuster once again here on Bears Nation Podcast. What a disaster. Let's start with Jaylon Johnson. Like I said, $76 million, $19 million annual average value, 7th among cornerbacks in the current market. To me, this is exactly what you're looking for. Now, if you're Jaylon Johnson, you probably wanted a bigger number, right? I mean, he had said he wanted to be in the Jair Alexander range, which is $21 million, amongst the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. He settles for a number significantly lower than that, I guess, in the annual average value at about $2 million less than that, around $19 million. But it's the guaranteed money that keeps him involved. What's up, Sean Sears, my man? How are we doing? The guaranteed money for Jaylon Johnson is why this is a deal that gets you excited on his end, right? And gets you excited on the Bears end. Jake, do we have your mic figured out?
I don't know, man.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I mean, it was expected, right? Based on what Ryan Poles had said over the last couple of months, what Ryan Poles had been saying, like what at the combine, Ryan Poles said, "Oh, we're confident." You know, he's usually not a guy who says something like that unless he believes it. So it's not unexpected. It would have been bigger news if somebody else signed him. You know what I mean? Like, he got the tag, and that was all kind of expected. I'm glad it was resolved as quickly as it was. I'm glad he wasn't sitting there on the franchise tag, you know, for weeks, months, however long. So, all in all, it's a positive. It means that Ryan Poles is taking things seriously and he's trying to move quickly. And now it's on to the next thing. It's on to making sure or finding whatever you can for the Justin Fields situation and resolving the quarterback room, because that's next on the docket. All right, great. You have your secondary locked in. Obviously, you have a hole at safety with Eddie Jackson departing, but your corners are set for the next 4 years at least. You know, Tyreek Stevenson arguably could have been all rookie, should have been. Tyrell Smith is a solid backup, you know, maybe with more playing time, he has more room to grow. Kyler Gordon was awesome in the slot, and you know what Jaylon Johnson is. So, and then Jaquan Brisker is a stud, obviously. Maybe you sign Jordan Poyer. Maybe you sign what's his face that got cut by the Broncos today.
Justin Simmons.
Yeah. I mean, you have the money. You can make a good unit great and arguably a great unit elite. So it's good that it happened. And now you just have to take the next step, keep building. And, you know, Ryan Poles, let's get a quarterback trade and call it a week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they just got it done now, right? Like, you thought once they put the tag on, I mean, we all knew that they put the tag on to basically extend the negotiation period, right? I mean, that's what that was for. We knew that Jaylon Johnson was never going to play under the tag in 2024. Like, we all knew that. You just wanted to give him the tag to continue to be able to negotiate and extend him. We just didn't think it would happen that fast. I mean, they gave him a tag 2 days ago, and they extend him today. Like, you rarely will see that order of events happen in that way. And it's been a really crazy journey for Jaylon, but he deserves it, and he's here long term. And I'm like, we had talked about, you know what, Poles, this was our thing throughout the entire, you know, middle of the season during the trade deadline, was like, dude, you know, you're messing around with extending Montez Sweat. Like, you have to prioritize Jaylon Johnson. This is a guy who does everything the right way. He's playing really good football. He's a second-team All-Pro this year. So when we talk about that prioritization of it, okay, I'm glad they did it before free agency. Right? Like, before you go and you throw around, you know, $90 million at Christian Wilkins or $110 million at, you know, the next X player, right? I'm glad that you are able to get this out of the way. You don't have to worry about Jaylon Johnson, and this isn't a contract that's going to screw you over financially. Like I said, $76 million is so affordable. $19 million a year, he's not even in that Jair Alexander range. This is a very affordable contract for the Bears, but also one that works well for Jaylon Johnson. So all parties are happy. He will play under a good contract for the next 4 years and have the ability to sign an even bigger one after that. And I have a feeling, Jake, this is a guy, if, you know, he requested a trade in the middle, like, he requested a trade. I have a feeling Jaylon Johnson's going to be here the rest of his career. Like, I have the itch that Jaylon Johnson probably won't leave the Bears unless things get like bad after 4 years and the Bears aren't in a position to win. Like, if their window closes 4 years from now and they don't want to pay Jaylon Johnson the next big contract of probably something of even more value, depending on how well he plays and if he's an All-Pro a couple times in the next 4 years. But it feels to me, this is just like a narrative thing. Like, it seems like he wants to be a Bear for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, he said as much. He said that he wanted to be a Bear. Ryan Poles said that he had expressed he wanted to be a Bear. So it makes sense. And I think that, let me pitch you on an idea real quick.
Okay.
The 4-year contract length, I think, is very intentional. And I think it's a very tactical move by Ryan Poles, I think it means that I think it confirms or is another sign of what we all know, that Justin Fields is on his way out.
Why? How are these things correlated, Jake?
So hear me out. 4-year deal. You draft Caleb Williams number 1 overall. Rookie contracts are 4 years with a 5th-year option.
Right, sure.
Then if Caleb Williams is as good as everyone thinks, if he's 80% as good as everyone thinks, he's going to be getting a second contract that is worth a lot of money, especially when you consider how the NFL cap has gone up and how much contracts have increased. Think about what that's going to look like in 4 years once more of these guys get paid. So I think that the 4-year length of the contract, and this is so galaxy brain, this is looking so far down the road.
Yeah, it's very galaxy brain.
But when I was thinking about it as you were talking right now, it's just something that popped into my brain that, maybe he does want to be a Bear for life, but the 4-year length seems very intentional in that it'll be ending just around the time that you need to possibly pay your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean that could be true. I mean, like if they have made the decision, right? If they've made the decision to go with Caleb, we don't know, right? We just don't know. But if that's the choice, then
seems like it's going that way, though.
It seems like it's going that way. Then yeah, you should probably make these deals in the next coming days, starting Monday when free agency begins with this Jaylon Johnson contract, with that in the back of your mind, right? Like that's not an out. I don't disagree with if that were the case to approach it in that fashion. I just don't know if that's the case yet. I mean, it's 90% chance probably that it is, but we just don't know. So I'm not going to correlate the two. I'm not going to let that be a tell. Sure. But with that being said, I guess I'll ask you, like, I've always been of the belief, we had been a belief that something would have happened before free agency. So that's why we're like all out of whack is, I had said the Bears were going to trade the pick today. I predicted that like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I think the Bears are going to trade the pick, and I think it'll happen March 7th. I think it'll happen before free agency. I was like, it has to happen before free agency because you have to have the vision of your team before you go and you throw money to all these people. And that's basically what you're saying.
I think we underestimated how many suitors there would be for Kirk Cousins and to a lesser extent Baker Mayfield.
I guess, but I don't see. Okay, but I don't. Do you understand that?
Yes. Yes, because the perception, especially when it comes to Kirk Cousins, maybe not so much Baker Mayfield, but especially with Kirk Cousins, you know what you're getting. And that that's a guy that can win you playoff games. So I get waiting for him. You might not have to wait for Baker Mayfield because he's more of an unknown kind of in that Justin Fields category. But Kirk Cousins, it seemed like we thought that there would be one suitor, if it wasn't the Vikings, that it would probably be the Steelers. And now it seems like there's more teams that we originally anticipated that are going to be in this mix. Minnesota's going to be it sounds like Minnesota's going to be interested in bringing him back, which we didn't.
Should be. They should be.
But we didn't think that was going to be an option. We thought Minnesota was saying, see ya. So Minnesota, Pittsburgh, now Atlanta has been rumored now as well. You want to throw Tampa in there if they're not going to re-sign Baker. It seems like Seattle is kind of in the market for a quarterback, even though they guaranteed Geno all this money. It feels like they're sniffing around. I've heard / seen rumors that the 49ers might want Kirk Cousins, even though they just went to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, which I guess, Kirk Cousins would be an upgrade. So ipso facto, maybe you win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. That's 6 alone. And I mean, that's 3 solid ones with Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. And let's throw Tampa in there. So that's 4. You can maybe add another 2 with speculation. I think there's more suitors than we anticipated for Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
And now you're going to have to wait for that situation to play itself out, because I think there are teams that would prefer Justin Fields to Baker Mayfield and especially Russell Wilson. So I think you got to wait for Kirk Cousins. I think we underestimated what the market would be for Kirk Cousins, and he's clearly the number 1 quarterback option for a lot of teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks. And now you have to wait for that first domino.
I just don't understand that aspect of it, because Kirk Cousins is 35 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. And it's when you see quarterbacks like this at this age range hit the free agent market, it's like a Russell Wilson from a couple weeks ago. Now, that wasn't a free agent market, but that was in the trade market, right? He was available. You see guys who have been there, done that. Kirk Cousins, what has he won? Russell Wilson's won a Super Bowl. So when you're the Broncos from 3 years ago, you're okay, we're adding Russell Wilson to win a Super Bowl because he's been there before. He can be the guy to put us over the edge. I don't know if any team is looking at Kirk Cousins like he's the guy that can put us over the edge. And when you talk about investing money and building a franchise around that piece, it doesn't make sense to me that more teams would be overwhelmingly more intrigued in Kirk Cousins than Justin Fields, which is what, like, and apparently that's the case. Like, I again, like what you're saying is right. Like, apparently Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield are screwing up the market for Justin Fields. But I just don't understand that logic. Yeah, definitely, because I think the assumption is Mayfield's going back to Tampa Bay. But I mean, if you're Atlanta, like take Atlanta, who's now like what, minus 250 for Kirk Cousins to be their quarterback. Why on earth would you rather want Kirk Cousins? I mean, Justin Fields is younger, cheaper, has potential, isn't coming off an Achilles injury, and you could keep him around for a while. And I don't think you're a Kirk Cousins away from winning the Super Bowl if you're the Falcons. Like, you're not no team is a Kirk Cousins away from winning the Super Bowl, Jake.
But
like,
if you're the Falcons, think about how soft that division is. You're a Kirk Cousins away from winning that division and going to the playoffs. Like, Kirk Cousins in Atlanta could win a playoff game for sure.
Yeah, but so could Justin Fields, and he's cheaper and younger.
In that vein, every one of their young playmakers are still on rookie contracts. Pitts, London, Bijan. Like, those guys are all still super cheap. So you can, and if you pay Kirk Cousins, like, you know what Kirk Cousins is, you know? If you're Atlanta and you bring in Justin Fields, you might have to bail out after a year or 2 years. You know, with Kirk Cousins, yeah, you know, your ceiling is probably championship game, maybe Super Bowl if everything breaks right. But with Justin Fields, you just don't know. And I agree, Justin Fields would be a great fit in Atlanta, but that's why Kirk Cousins is the first domino, because he's a proven commodity. Even though he's older and you got to pay him more, you know what you're getting. And he was playing really well at the time of the injury.
So how far do you think the market has diminished here? So there's people, like I said.
I don't think it's diminished. I think it's going to ramp back up as soon as Cousins puts.
So you think it's just availability?
I think it's just a waiting game. Okay. I think it's once everybody who misses out on Cousins. So let's say Cousins goes to Pittsburgh. Let's just, for shits and giggles, let's say that. So now you have Minnesota. Tampa probably re-signs Baker in that instance, right? So Cousins goes to Pittsburgh. You have Atlanta and Minnesota as the biggest two scramblers. If you're the Bears, you don't want to trade him to Minnesota more than likely. So you're calling Atlanta like, all right, you really want to go to Russell Wilson, or do you want this guy? And Russell Wilson is way cooked. Maybe he could have some success somewhere, but if you're a team choosing between him or Justin Fields, Fields is essentially, at this point in Russell Wilson's career, a younger Russell Wilson with a higher ceiling. So, like, if that's I think perfect scenario, and this is like, it doesn't sound great to say, but perfect scenario for the Bears is Cousins re-signs with Minnesota. Because A, you know you can beat that team with Kirk Cousins because you've done it already. And then B, it doesn't take Pittsburgh out of the running, and you can have Pittsburgh and Atlanta bidding against each other for Fields.
Yeah, and I think what contributes to this, and this is what's so weird about the Combine, is like the Combine shouldn't matter as much as it does, at least for the big names, right? And we talk about this every year. Like, there's value to the Combine.
A lot of the big names aren't doing a lot of the measurables or anything. Right.
Like, why do you think none of them threw? Like there's a reason. But if you're like a D3 guy, or you're, someone made a great example, like Jaylon Johnson is like the perfect Combine guy. He's playing behind Bijan Robinson. He gets an opportunity to show his skill set in front of scouts. Like there's value to the Combine, but not at the top of the draft. But it seems to be that part of the reason this market for Justin Fields has quote unquote diminished, or whatever you want to call it, I know that's not the right word, is because you've seen teams apparently fall in love with J.J. McCarthy after meeting him at the Combine. You've seen teams apparently fall in love with Michael Penix Jr. after meeting at the Combine. Our own Mark Grody from 670 The Score has Bo Nix mocked in the top 15 of his most recent mock drafts, right? Like, these teams have now fallen in love with rookie quarterbacks. Joe Milton, who I don't think will go in the first round, but there might be a team that says, hey, we have, like, if you're Pittsburgh, you're like, okay, we'll run with Kenny Pickett.
They're going to watch him throw. They're going to see his cannon of an arm.
Yeah, guy's got an absolute laser. But these teams have fallen in love with these quarterbacks, and they're like, well, maybe we will take the younger guy, and we won't have to worry about trading anything for Fields. We'll just take, if you're Atlanta, we'll just take JJ at 8, which I think would be insane. But those are the thoughts going through their head. So that's all contributing. And I don't like. So this is a good segue to just the overall conversation about the first overall pick and what the Bears are going to do. I don't think there's any possible world, the Bears would keep Justin Fields on the roster with Caleb Williams. I literally do not think there is a universe where that is feasible. But like, at what point, if ever, would you just have to suck it up? And like, if the market's truly diminished and say free agency plays out and things go all the wrong way, like Pittsburgh really is content with Kenny Pickett, Atlanta does get Kirk Cousins, someone drafts JJ McCarthy, and the Denver drafts JJ McCarthy, and Minnesota trades up for Penix or whatever, it just shakes out to where there isn't a suitor for Justin Fields. Like, do you have to just lick your wounds and say, you know what, we'll have to give up Justin for a 5th rounder, or do you keep him? Or does the availability for Justin Fields make you think twice about taking Caleb Williams, or those two things cannot be correlated?
The two things are not.
I agree. They can't be.
If it came to that, I think the Bears would have released Justin Fields. And
there's no way.
If it came to that worst case scenario, if it came to that, I think worst case scenario is you get a team like Seattle or like the Jets who would bring him in to be the backup. Like absolute worst case scenario. So like, let's say Cousins goes to Minnesota and they draft Penix or Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler, whatever, to develop behind Kirk Cousins. Let's say Atlanta trades up to number 3 and they take Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Let's say Tampa re-signs Baker. Let's say the Steelers sign Russell Wilson and they run it with Wilson and Pickett. Ugh. And, let's say, that's it, right? That's the only other, right? So I think worst case scenario then, Seattle or the Jets or the Chiefs, whoever, somebody calls and says, we'll give you a 5th or 6th rounder and he can be the backup. And I think the Bears would have to take it in that instance, because otherwise,
at that point,
you're not drafting Caleb Williams and keeping Justin Fields. And the Bears aren't going to say, well, can't draft Caleb Williams because nobody wants Justin Fields, so we're just going to run it back. If they've already decided to move on, then I think they would just release them.
I think
not saying that's going to happen, but
right. I think this whole market diminished. There's no market. Oh, what's going to happen? I think people, obviously, like insiders are reporting that or whatever. People are reporting that. And here's where I think it comes from, Jake. I don't think it comes from those people knowing that teams aren't interested. I think it comes from those people knowing that there aren't conversations going on. Okay, so when they see conversations not going on, they immediately come to the conclusion that, well, no teams are interested. But this is what I think is happening. I truly believe the Bears do like Justin Fields. Obviously, we know Matt Eberflus likes Justin Fields. We know Kevin Warren likes Justin Fields. Like, the Bears don't hate Justin Fields. They are not dying to get rid of him. They are going to hold on to Justin Fields until they know absolutely everything they need to know about Caleb Williams. And the whole medicals thing doesn't help, right? The whole, you only get 10 minutes at the, we'll talk about that. The whole 10 minutes at the combine doesn't help. Like, you want to, like, and I know they say, oh, they've done the forensics. And, again, we talked about, what he eats for breakfast. What his dog eats for dinner, right? Like, all these different things, but it's different when you one-on-one, and they'll do this at the pro day. And when they bring him into household for the whole day meeting, which is March 20th, I believe, like next 13 days, like, once you know, then they can reopen the conversation about Justin Fields. But if I'm them, and I think this is what's happening, is maybe they're not really actively trying to get rid of him until then. I'm sure they'll take calls. Like, I don't think they're hanging up the phone if Atlanta calls and wants to make an offer, but I don't know if Ryan Poles is sitting there dialing ATL, dialing Pitt, dialing all these teams, actively trying to get him off the roster before you know everything you need to know about Justin Fields. And to me, like, that's just the smart way to do it. And I heard Mike Florio say on the score today when I was working, he was like, oh, you got to get rid of Fields now. You get rid of Fields now because of the market. I don't think you have to, and I don't think you should. You have somebody you know you like. You have somebody you know is good. You don't know if he's great, but you know he's good. You know he can probably be good if you added good pieces in Marvin Harrison Jr. and a someone that's not Ryan Bates, hopefully at center. We'll talk about that trade. But I think they know they have something, and they are not going to get rid of something until they are 100% sure that they love Caleb Williams. I mean, what have we known about Ryan Poles? He says he has to love the prospect, and I'm sure he loves Caleb Williams and he likes him. But until they have that full day meeting at Hallis Hall, and until they are 100% convicted, I don't think they're going to trade Justin Fields. So I could be wrong. They could trade him in the next 4 days before free agency, but this whole unknowingness nature of Caleb Williams with the medicals and with not being able to talk to him too much and, all the things we've already known from the past. They want to clear all of that up before they get rid of somebody who they think can still potentially be very good in the right system.
I think it's more just the quarterback market is at a stalemate until
I don't think that's what it is.
I don't buy into the medicals and blah blah. You have to remember, Kevin, a lot of this too, a lot of what we're gonna hear is, and I've said this to you, a lot of what we're gonna hear is other teams trying to blow smoke about Caleb Williams to see if they can disenchant the Bears with him.
Oh, please.
I think it means more that the Bears already scheduled a top 30 visit with him. You only
stop it. What do you mean it means more? They would have done that anyway. They didn't do that with the Marine prospect.
You have time to schedule those, and you only get a few of them, and it's March. This was days ago. It was March 2nd or whatever, and they're like, we want to do this. Like, yes, it makes sense for the timeline, but context matters for all of this, not just the negatives or the perceived negatives. I agree with you. They could switch gears. Maybe they do end up sticking with Fields, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen. Here's where I'm at with Caleb Williams speculation and the medicals and his history. And oh my God, he said that 10 minutes isn't a long of time. Yeah, breaking news. Guy who met for 10 minutes objectively says that a short amount of time is a short amount of time. Who would have thought? What are we doing here? Yeah, 10 minutes isn't a long time. Hey, breaking news. God, yeah, our pets' heads are falling off because 10 minutes is a lot of time. What do we do? Yeah, I mean, Kevin, I know for you, 10 minutes is a long time. But, for an interview, you can't, no kidding. So I still think this is all tracking towards the Bears drafting Caleb Williams. I think they're just going to wait because they can afford to. They can afford to wait for somebody to get desperate. They can afford to wait for Atlanta to start feeling the pressure once Cousins re-signs with Minnesota.
Yeah, okay.
Once, Baker re-signs with Tampa. And once New England is rejecting their calls for number 3 and saying, no, we're taking Jaden Daniels. Then once somebody starts to sweat a little bit, that's when the Bears have the leverage. So I think that makes more sense. And that's why I don't believe, we still have 2 months, basically, until the draft. We have so long. So
I don't, but you're acting like they don't have the leverage now. They have all of the leverage now.
But they'll have more leverage. They have potentially more leverage over 2 teams.
Yeah, but it depends how you define leverage. Right? They don't have leverage necessarily in the sense of Justin Fields. But here's what's interesting to me, right? We objectively, we have to make the case of, could they still trade the pick? We know that it's likely that they won't, right?
Objectively,
we know
they
that
could, yes.
Objectively, they could. So let's just go down that pathway. We're not making any predictions. We're just going to go down that pathway.
I will say one more point, though, about this that I wanted to make, too. The Ryan Bates trade that you brought up. They gave up a 5th rounder for Ryan Bates, who Ryan Poles famously wanted to sign 2 years ago to be the starting center. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but a 5th-round pick doesn't seem like a price you're going to pay for a backup, and unless you felt like you could get that pick back in a follow-up trade coming later.
Yeah, but could that follow-up trade be a trade for the first overall pick too, right? It could be both things.
Sure.
If anything, I think it favors that narrative is that you have to build up more capital via a trade.
If you believe that the field if you believe that the market for Fields is diminished, and maybe you can only get a 5th rounder back.
No, there's absolutely no way. There's absolutely no way. And I think that would be, I don't know. I don't think there's a way. But let's go down the route of, hey, maybe they could still trade the pick, which it's on the table. It's on the table.
Sure.
And I think,
at this point.
And it frustrates me that we've just neglected, the media has just neglected that possibility. They have. We work in Chicago sports radio, and they neglected it because of what they've heard from insiders and person X and scout Y and who, blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. Nobody knows what Ryan Poles is doing. But let's just go down this route. At this very moment, Jake, the value for the number 1 pick has never been so high. In fact, It's as high as it could possibly be because everybody in the world thinks you're taking Caleb Williams. It's at 98%. And look, I could be wrong. You know what? Maybe teams are calling for the number 1 overall pick and Ryan Poles is hanging up. Maybe that's what's happening, and maybe that's why we're hearing what we're hearing. But if he does answer that phone call, if everyone in the world thinks that he's going to take Caleb Williams, and everyone's talking about Justin Fields getting moved and all these different things, this is the most leverage he's ever had. He's got more leverage than he even had last year because of the prospect and because of the way this has played out. They were so eager to move that pick, and we knew that they were going to move it in February. We still don't know if they want to move the pick or if they want to take Caleb Williams. Nothing has come from him. This is all, I walked away from the combine believing this because X person talked to this person, X person talked to this person, and to our knowledge, nothing has come from Ryan Poles. But even if it did, you could also play the card that, hey, he's talking up that number 1 overall pick to raise that value. So here's how I'm approaching it, Jake. And I think this is the rational and objective way and reasonable way to approach this, because I'm sick of like picking a side and advocating too hard for one guy. I think they're sitting there like this. Ryan Poles is at that desk saying, look, at this moment, March 7th, if nothing else changes, we're going to take Caleb Williams. But if we get an offer that exceeds what that price is that we initially set, so I'm sure they have a price. There is not a doubt in my mind that they have a target price. And if they get an offer, if it's Washington that throws in an extra first or second rounder, or it's New England, or it's New York, or whoever it may be that throws in a little bit extra to significantly exceed that target price, I think they'll take it. So I think they're sitting there saying, hey, we know what's available to us at number 1 overall, but if you are willing to pay that premium price, we still like what we have in Justin Fields. We don't hate him. We're not trying to get rid of him. We like what we have. And if you want to give us that extra first rounder, that's going to set us up, for success without a doubt for the next 4 years in our window. And look at all these players we have under contract for 4 years and yada, yada, yada. I think they do it. So that's the way I'm approaching it. I think is that fair? That feels really fair to me. And I don't want to be called a Justin, Glazer or whatever it may be, or a Caleb Glazer. That's the way. And I truly do believe that that's the way they're looking at it, Jake.
Yeah. I mean, and Poles has said as much, that if he gets an offer that blows him away, then he'll, consider it or he'll take it. Like, it would have to be historic. And we've gone over this. This is something that popped into my head. If the Giants called and said, we want to send you Daniel Jones, we'll eat most of the money, would you take him to be the backup to Caleb Williams and send Justin Fields to New York?
I mean, sure. I don't know. That's such a weird hypothetical. I mean,
would you want
you're
Daniel
right
Jones
though.
to backup?
So actually you open a good conversation real quick, just to go back to those teams that are interested in Fields. I actually do think I'll make this prediction if we're getting back into prediction business. I think Fields ends up at a location that's not one of the top 4 that he's supposed to go to, which is Pittsburgh, Atlanta. I guess we'll throw Minnesota in there, maybe Denver. We'll call those. I think those are the 4 highest favorites. If it weren't the Bears, I think if he weren't a Bear, he ends up in a location that is unexpected, whether that's Seattle, whether that's,
Tampa,
San Francisco, right? Like
sure.
That's, and I know San Francisco passed on him in 2021, right? But I think you could see a team that has a quarterback, but would enter Justin Fields into a competition in training camp with the opportunity for him to win a job. That's my prediction. If he doesn't end up with the Bears, he might end up in a surprise team that already has a decent roster and is looking for a bit of an upgrade at quarterback. I'd have to look at more teams that kind of fit that billing. But that is kind of my outlandish offseason prediction for, Justin Fields. Jake, I have one thing to say about the medicals, because I know you talked about that not being an issue. And it's not like people are like, oh, he's hiding something. He's not hiding anything. He doesn't have like bone spurs or something that he's hiding. Like he's fine. I mean, like, there's not a problem. But here's the thing that feels weird about all of this stuff about Caleb Williams, about declining the medicals, about some of the other things in the past. It just, a lot of the drama centered around him, it just seems very avoidable. It seems like he's created a lot of the drama himself. Like, I was talking to Kellen, who used to be on this podcast. Shout out Kellen, great dude, working at Boston College and recruiting. And And like, it just feels like, why does he think he's above the process? I guess is what it is. And I don't, that's not supposed to be mean or disparaging.
He's not the only one that did it, though.
I think he's the only one that declined the medicals. I mean,
I think this goes back to the conversation of the combine just isn't as important as it used to be.
But Jake, it's not. I'm not talking about participating in the. I don't give a fuck that he didn't participate in the combine. That's fine.
I think it's part of that. I think it's part of that conversation of not getting measured and not throwing, because he's not the Malik Neighbors also did not. Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't even show up to interviews at the combine. Like, I think this is all part of the thing of these type of like measurables and stuff before the pro days, before like. But
I'm not talking about the measurables, Jake. I'm talking about like the standard thing is to just. Yeah, sure, I know, and though you get him at the pro day, and I actually, according to Lawrence Holmes, he said that he has shown me some text messages with some guy that it's going to end up creating more work for him because he has to do more individual medical tests now with each of the teams that he's interested in. And it's going to end up being more work, and he kind of screwed himself over. But that's not the point. Again, I don't want to sound like, oh, the guy's not doing the medicals because he's hiding anything, or I can't believe he didn't participate in the combine. That's not the point. The over-encompassing point is a lot of the drama that is around him that people are pissed off about him being a quote-unquote diva or quote-unquote dramatic is been created by him. Like and maybe not created him, but it just seems so avoidable. And that's why it's so frustrating. Is it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be. And I know that plays into the polarization of this, and I know that plays into a lot of the skepticism about him. And there shouldn't be skepticism. It should just be standard. But he creates some of the problems for himself by just not doing things by the standard status quo. And like, be different, be unique. Like, sure, that's not really what I'm talking about.
I want to address the chat right now. I'd rather have JJ over Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Touch grass. Go outside.
We can't have
Seek
that.
help. That's the most outrageous. We've got some outrageous comments in the time of this podcast.
That might be the most outrageous.
Oh my God. But this is part of the thing. Again, Kevin, back to what I was saying. You're gonna hear a lot of things about Caleb Williams. Oh, the diva thing. Oh, hiding the medicals. I think it's tactics that you see from other teams. At the end of the day,
it is not tactics.
Random texts from random people. I love Lawrence as much as you do, but
I'm
not pinning things on random texts.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it's, do you trust Ryan Poles? Do you trust Ryan Poles to make the right decision?
Sure.
We still have a ton of
Good
time.
conversation.
We have a month and a half until the draft. At the end of the day, do you trust Ryan Poles? And if you do, then this all should mean nothing to you. Ryan Poles, at the end of the day, will make the decision. He'll get the medicals. He'll get the measurables. He'll go to the pro day. Caleb Williams will come to Halas Hall. And Ryan Poles has been very adamant and upfront about, we are going to take into account the character of a player that we draft. So, ipso facto, do you trust Ryan Poles? I do. I trust Ryan Poles to make the right decision. So if that means drafting Caleb Williams at number 1, then to me, that means to me that Kevin Warren and Kevin Poles are like, all right.
Kevin Poles?
Whatever. We know that I mix names a lot on this show. We know that Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles were sitting with Caleb Williams, and they brought up these questions. They talked about this, and whatever his answers were, whatever his charts were, it all came back and assuaged their concerns. And they said, you know what? Great. This all checks out. This is our guy. If that's the decision, great. Awesome. If it's not, okay, then maybe everybody was right. Or maybe they just said, hey, maybe this isn't the right fit. At the end of the day, I trust Ryan Poles. So if he decides that this is all a bunch of nothing and all a bunch of smoke, okay, great. I'm willing to ride with it. I'm not going to sit here and debate if Caleb Williams is a diva or if he's hiding something or if he's trying to force his way to Washington. Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren are going to do the work. They're going to meet with them multiple times, and they're going to decide if this is something or if it's nothing. If they decide it's nothing, then I'm full in, and I'm willing to trust their judgment.
I just people.
JJ McCarthy won the championship throwing the football 13 times a game. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. He could be good, but I don't want to hear it.
I just think. Oh God, here we go.
Oh boy. if this was such a bad thing, then why is everything that you read, Adam Johns, guys who we had on this podcast, Adam Johns, Adam Hogue, Kevin Fishbane, everybody that came away from the combine, everyone that came away from the combine, all had good things to say about Caleb Williams. People who are hired and being paid to be objective about the team. Everything, if this was the concerns about, he played bad against Notre Dame, and he paints his fingernails, and oh my God.
That's not what I'm worried about.
Where I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you specifically, but the emails. Where are the emails? Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Like, I trust the people who are paid to cover this beat and the people who are paid to talk to the coaches. And I trust the people who were paid millions of dollars to fix the franchise. Okay? Maybe we're not there yet. But the point being that Ryan Poles' draft history has more credibility than not. I trust him to go through the process and do the work that he needs to do to get to the right conclusion that is best for the Chicago Bears. And I'm willing to ride with that. If nobody else wants to, fine, that's great. But God, it's so much, and I'm so sick of it already because we have another month and a half of this, and we're going to get more of it. And it's going to be more people trying to, stir the pot to get the people of Chicago riled up. Because look at me, I'm example number one of how easy it is to get riled up.
Yeah. There you go. Go off, kid. Go off. Look, I am not of the camp that, like, I don't believe Caleb Williams is like a diva. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I know. I just want to. I understand. I just want to clear up that initial point. I don't think Caleb Williams is like a diva. I think he is somewhat dramatic. He's insanely confident, and people mistake confidence for cockiness. And it can be a little cocky if you're really confident before winning anything, which he hasn't. And that's why it can come off the wrong way if you say you're so great and you haven't proved it yet in the league because you've never taken a snap in the league before and you haven't even been drafted to a team yet. So it's hard to swallow those things sometimes. But I don't think he's a diva. I'm just saying if he is if he's looking at it like, damn, I can't believe all these people are saying all these things about me, and like I can't believe that like there's all this narrative around me being dramatic and being a diva. Well, it was relatively avoidable. And I know what his dad said a year ago about ownership in a team and everything is like unavoidable because that's not him, that's his dad. But some of the other things, right? Like there have been avoidable. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not like worried about, Caleb Williams like tearing a franchise down if he were to be drafted there. I'm a little bit worried about like his ability to, I won't even go down that road yet. There's things I'm worried about from a not a leadership standpoint, but from like a pressure standpoint, because he set the bar so high for himself that the moment, he struggles, it's going to come down crashing even harder if he were to struggle. But, he's extremely confident. And look, you need superior confidence to play the quarterback position. We know that. I want to talk real quick about what you're talking about with Ryan Poles, and then we can get out of here. The whole trust in Ryan Poles thing, in general, I agree. And among my friends, and it's funny, I'm sure you get the same thing. But like anytime I go out with my friends, the first question I get, "Oh, what's up, Kev? Like, are the Bears taking Caleb, or are they gonna trade? Are they gonna trade the pick? What are they gonna?" Like, it's the first thing people ask me, and I'm like, dude, I kind of been telling them the same thing. Like, I'm like, I don't know. No one knows. Like, it's not an opinionated question at this point. Like, I can tell you what I want them to do, but I don't know what they're gonna do. No one knows what we're gonna do, and I'm operating under this theory that they're gonna take Caleb Williams until they get an offer that exceeds their expectations. But the idea of trusting Ryan Poles is fair because the first overall pick last year, the trade for that obviously has hit unbelievably well. He's signed good players in free agency. He's been a decent drafter aside from, key skill positions. But Jake, he's never drafted a quarterback. And oftentimes, it's a flawed evaluation process. And even if you think this is a guy who's thorough and diligent and has done all of the homework and done everything he possibly can to know everything he can know and come to the right decision, there's still a chance for exterior reasons that it doesn't work out. So I am not really safe saying yeah, I just trust Ryan Poles. Like, I just put my faith in Ryan Poles. Like, for me to sit here and put all of my faith and confidence in that, I would have to have seen him draft a quarterback before that's hit really well. And I know people can say, the argument against that is, well, he was in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and he scouted. Like, yes, like that's true. But, you can make that argument. But as the GM of a team with the first overall pick, I can't confidently say that after only being 2 years as a general manager, that he's just going to get it right. Like that, no matter what way it is, it's just going to be the right way because we have all this sample size to prove that he is. I love Ryan Poles. I think he's doing a phenomenal job building this team, and I think he's doing it the right way, and I think he's going to be here a very long time. But for me to say I'm 100% confident in what he does either way, like it's hard to say that because you could get burned very hard either way.
There's always risk with anything you do.
Well, I know there's always risk, but like that seems to be the sentiment.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, I no. I'm not saying there's not risk associated with both, but I can't just sit back and kick my feet up on the desk and say I'm not going to think any more about this because Ryan Poles is going to do it the right way. Sure, I do believe he will, but I can't put 100% confidence in that because we just don't know. Jake, quarterbacks in the draft are, especially at number 1 overall, it's so what's the phrase? It's so. It's not hit or miss, but I forget the phrase. Yeah, it's high variance. Like everyone in the world could have told you, 5-10 years ago that Johnny Manziel was the best prospect you could imagine, right? And all these guys, aside from a football standpoint, okay.
But he also got drafted 22nd overall. Like
Johnny Manziel,
he didn't go number 1.
Stop it.
He got drafted like 20th. I know I'm right on this.
You are definitely not right.
Am
I
definitely
wrong?
Right. Yes.
Oh yeah, you are right. Johnny Manziel. Sorry. Who am I thinking of? There's somebody else. There's someone else I'm thinking of. Not Johnny Manziel. Sorry, but this point in general, no, not Trevor Lawrence. Fuck. I'm mistaken. I gotta look at it. Wow, I look like an idiot. But just in general, the process of evaluating a quarterback is just it's so hit or miss, and there's no right way to do it. And it's just at some point, Jake, like we know it can be luck. It really can. So, and you have to ask yourself too, like everyone has seemed to taken away the coach aspect of it. And I know Eberflus got a haircut, and that dude is looking a little swaggy now. Yeah, but is it the best possible situation for a quarterback to walk into? Definitely not. And
it's
who
better
created
than we
that
thought it was going to be a year ago.
It definitely is. And they did a great job hiring people who have worked with quarterbacks who have experience in this league. But it's probably not. It's not Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, right? If we want to draw parallels, okay. But these are the parallels that are being made to Caleb Williams, so we have to take everything into consideration if you're making those parallels. So, and all I'm saying is, well, Ryan Poles contributed to the hiring coaching staff. So this is all I'm saying when I'm talking about you. I don't think you should, if you're a listener and you're a fan of the team, just kick your feet up and be like, well, no matter what happens, it's going to be the right decision because I trust Ryan Poles. Like I do, but you can't 100% safely just put all of your faith in him. Like
what's your other option?
It's an unsafe game.
What's your other option?
Well, you have to entertain both options because of that is all I'm saying. You have to know the risk associated.
Once it's
over, you have no choice. Sure. Right. Once it's over, you have no choice.
That's what I'm saying. That's my whole point. Once it's done, if they go through with it and it happens, then I just trust them. I trust that they made the right decision. If that's what they do.
Right. Well,
by then what's done is done.
It's just okay. So you can.
That was my whole point.
No. But here's the difference.
You just said no. Just in a longer way.
Well, no. I think we're not saying eye to eye. You trust the decision. I trust the decision. Okay, the decision itself, I trust. Do I trust the handling of the decision? Do I trust everything that comes after it? And that's what that is a broader organizational question, right? Because we know that this is an organization that hasn't developed a QB, right? The decision to draft Justin Fields might have been a fine one. Everything after that, not a good decision, right? So that's more of what I'm referring to.
Part of it at some point too is that you've just run out of time.
You've run out of time with what?
With as far as like you've just at a certain point. That's part of this is you've come into this perfect storm of Justin Fields at the end of his rookie deal, and you have a unique situation where you also have the number 1 overall pick. So, like, how many teams ever in the history of the NFL have been in this situation? You know, this exact situation where you have a promising guy who has shown flashes, but you have to make a decision on, but you also have the number 1 overall pick, and you might, not saying you will, but you might have a generational guy and the opportunity to draft him. Like, that's just never happened. So at a certain point, like in a certain vein of this, time has just run out. And like the opportunity is just too much to pass up. You can't, and we're going to be running in circles here. But again, not to say that Justin Fields is bad, not to say that Justin Fields can't have success somewhere else, but it's just how many times in the NFL has a team been in this position? I think it's never.
Yeah, and that's a good point for why they should do it. Yes, it is. You make a good point. It's a unique situation. But
I think time has just run out. I think that's just a part of this.
Maybe. I mean, sure.
Like if the Bears were at 9, if the Bears
the time isn't.
If the Bears were only at 9, I think it would just be all right. Hope one of these receivers falls. Hope Roma Odunze falls.
Right.
Yeah, you won 7 games and you run it back with Justin Fields. But you're in a unique situation where you don't do that. God, I hope he falls to 9. If he falls, that would be so great.
Roma Odunze?
Yeah, that would be so
great. I think there's absolutely no way he falls. But Neighbors is going to go ahead of him. And
right. Well, let's
if J.J. McCarthy goes in the top 10, let's play.
Let's play this game to close. So let's just say, for funsies, Caleb Williams, number 1 to the Bears.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels, number 2 to Washington. Drake May, number 3 to New England. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 4 to Arizona.
Yep.
Let's say Brock Bowers, number 5 to the Chargers. Think we agree on that?
Wow. No, I don't think Brock Bowers.
You think they should go lineman?
Yeah, I think they'll probably go Alt or
okay. So let's say Joe Alt. Then, do the Giants reach or do they trade out of it at 6? Do the Giants
reach
take
for Odunze or reach for JJ? They might, dude. No, they might. I'm serious. They might. I mean, I don't know because who's going to trade like. If Neighbors hasn't gone yet, because
Neighbors and Bowers are both on the table here in this situation.
I mean, dude, the Giants have no help at receiver, and they're losing Saquon.
Okay, so let's say Malik Neighbors. Let's say Malik Neighbors 6.
Yes.
7 is the Titans.
Who is 7?
7's the Titans. So do they take Bowers or do they take whoever the second tackle is? Will that be Alt or
I'd probably say the second tackle. I think Bowers falls a little bit.
I agree with that. Okay, so 8 Atlanta.
And they probably...
So 2 linemen are gone here. Does Atlanta take Odunze at 8? They already have Pitts and London.
No, I don't think they take Odunze. Hot take. I think Atlanta might...
so in this situation, Odunze falls to 9.
Yeah, I think... you know what? I think there's a way it happens. I think there's a way it happens.
You need Bowers or 2 linemen to go in the top 7.
Yeah. Which or a quarterback or JJ.
Sure, or somebody gets desperate, yeah.
And I'm not ruling out the possibility of Michael Penix still rising at some point. I know he's been hurt, but he could be the most pro-ready quarterback of
Would you be opposed to the Bears? Let's say Alt and the 3 receivers are off the board. Would you be opposed to the Bears trading back to 12? And let's say Bowers slides to 12. Would you want Bowers at 12?
Yeah, I think they have to. This is in Mark Grote's mock draft. I think if they don't get 2 of the tackles or one of the receivers at 9, they have to move out. And I think if they move out, I don't know if I'd take Brock. I think I'd take Dallas Turner. I think I'd take an edge and then just build like a defense that could be the best in the NFL. Like
my ideal scenario is Caleb and Odunze.
Yeah, that's ideal. That's the dream.
I would be fine with Caleb and Alt though too. If Alt,
let me pitch one last thing to you. Let's get nuts.
Okay.
This is such a pipe dream because there's absolutely no way Marvin Harrison Jr. falls past 4.
No shot.
There's absolutely 0 chance, right? But if your guy Nick Costos is really buying into Neighbors somehow going over Harrison, which there's absolutely no way. But let's say it happens. Let's say like
I will say this for Nick Costos. He doesn't say things unless he's heard it from a reliable source.
Right, and yes, and that's why.
I'm not saying that's going to happen, but at least somebody has said that it's a possibility.
Right. And this is what we do when you have 2 months to talk about absolutely nothing but the draft.
Right.
Like, you throw these things out. And I think at the end of the day, Marvin Harrison Jr. will go fourth overall. But in the rare scenario where Arizona does something weird and falls in love, maybe they fall in love with Odunze. You just don't know. Say Marvin Harrison Jr.
What if Arizona trades Kyler?
Or what if I doubt that'll happen, but if they do, or if they trade, maybe they trade back. Maybe they say, hey, look, we're a team that is clearly in rebuilding mode.
They already have so much draft capital from last year.
But if something gets weird, there's a possibility. If Marvin goes 3 and May or Daniels are available at 4, you will 100% see a team like Atlanta or Vegas or New York give up not a king's ransom, but give up significant value to move up 2 or 3 spots to take that third best quarterback at 4. And then if Arizona moves down to 6, if you're Chicago and you're the Bears and you have Harrison Jr. available at 5, you trade up and you find a way to trade up, and you don't have a ton of capital this year to do it. But if you give up a 2025 second rounder to get up to 5 to get Harrison, you do that immediately. Immediately.
First rounder.
No, to move up 4 slots from 9 to 5. No, I don't think you'd have to give up a first rounder. I don't think you would. I wouldn't make the trade if you give up a first rounder. I think you can give up a 2 and a 4, or maybe a 2 and a 3. Maybe one of this year's 3s and next year's 2. I think there's a way to do it, but I'm just let's just get funky, who knows? I think
it's March 7th. What do you think happens?
All right, it's March 7th.
Assuming no trades.
So the last time we did a show was 2 weeks ago, and I said the Bears were going to trade the pick. Assuming no trades, I think the Bears are going to take Caleb Williams at 1, and I think they'll take Rome Odunze at 9. Assuming no trades. But in an ideal world, I think they'll take Caleb Williams at 1. I think they'll move down from 9 or move up. I don't think they're staying at 9 regardless. They're moving down or up, baby. Moving down or up.
I don't know why you became.
I don't know why it's been a Southern
I don't know why
accent.
you became a cowboy at that point.
Yeah, that was really weird.
I agree, though. I think it ends up being Williams and Odunze, which I would be thrilled with, by the way.
Again, like I said, at this moment, I think they're going to take Caleb Williams. But let's not rule it. Let's not rule out the possibility of Washington and that absolute psycho Josh Harris being like, you know what? Let's just fill the stadium for 2 years. Here's an extra first rounder. I truly believe that is on the table with a chance to happen.
If you have Jaden Daniels and Drake May, or one of the two, or both rated closely to Caleb Williams, I don't know why you wouldn't do that. That would make sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. Anyway, hey, big shout out to the viewers, Jake. We got 100 concurrents right now. They've been absolutely on it today. Big shout out to them for tuning in. I know this is it's a hot time. People are obviously intrigued by the conversation, and we'll be back pretty soon. Jake, free agency's coming up. Some big moves will be made, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the Bears sign a interior guard or a center, or do something, because they still have holes to fill. Maybe a safety. That'd be great. Sign Jordan.
Wait, do you want to do a free agent wish list in 2 minutes, real quick, real fast free agent wish list?
We don't know who else is going to be a free agent. We got guys.
What do you mean you don't know who's going to be a free agent? What are you talking about? Yes, we do. The deadline, the tag is passed. We know everyone who's going to be. Unless there's, we know the free agents. So real quick,
you go.
Okay. Okay, free agent wish list. I truly do believe Justin Simmons should be on that free agent wish list. I tweeted that today. It's a really surprise cut. If you compare him with Jaquan Brisker, that's the best safety duo in the NFL. It's one of the best defenses in the NFL after extending Jaylon Johnson. I think you put Justin Simmons on that wish list. You put Danielle Hunter on that wish list. I think you do put Calvin Ridley on that wish list just because you are unsure if you are going to get a wide receiver at 9, although we just played through those hypotheticals. You have to put a wide receiver on the wish list, because if you don't, and you don't hit any of those wide receivers, you're FUCKED at wide receiver again if you don't go after somebody. So, and then there was an interior O-lineman I was interested in, but that is my preliminary wish list until I find my tweet with my other 3 guys. But who do you have off the dome?
I'm with you as far as Justin Simmons. I think that's the slam dunk, far and away what you have to do. Assuming that he takes most of that cap or most of that money. I still think you need to get a defensive tackle. Whether that's
Christian Wilkins. That's the name. Dude, Christian Wilkins.
Christian Wilkins.
Wilkins.
I think that's a good one as well. So that would be great. 2, I'm with you there. And then I think Tyler Boyd would be a sneaky good addition too. But as a 3, assuming that you're going to get your 2 in the draft, I think Tyler Boyd would be a sneaky good third receiver. So yeah, Simmons, and what's his face, and then Boyd. So I'm with you.
Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, Wilkins. So
Tony Pollard.
I'm with you there.
Tony Pollard.
I'm whatever on the running.
Tony Pollard's literally the best fit for this team amongst the free agent running
Pick your
backs.
favorite. I don't care. I mean, whatever. We had the Saquon rumors yesterday. It was Josh Jacobs today. It'll probably be Tony Pollard tomorrow. Whatever. It's a running back. Who cares?
I care because Tony Pollard rocks, although he fucked me in fantasy last year. All right. Good night, everybody. Good stream. Jake, close it out.
All right. This has been Bears Nation Podcast. Thank you to the listeners, the viewers. You guys are the best as always. We appreciate you. Appreciate the comments. We'll be back at some point to do free agency and, of course, to keep discussing this very stupid quarterback situation. Until then, appreciate you. Stay well. We'll see you next time. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.